Hi, welcome to Sacred Spaces. I'm Laura Kelly and today we've got a special episode for you. It's all about city living. At the moment, we're standing inside what used to be the Russell Street telephone exchange and post office. It's now been turned into an amazing set of apartments called the Hero Apartments. And in a moment, we're going to go up and have a look at a couple of them with architect Shelley Roberts, who's got a personal connection to the building and it's one of her favourite spots in Melbourne. So let's have a look. Well, Shelley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very privileged to be here.
It's wonderful to have you showing us through what I think is a really unique sacred space for us, because we're getting access inside people's lives really here. Can you talk us through where we're sitting right now?
We're currently sitting in the living area of an apartment situated where the telecom exchange used to be. So there are massive big stacks, which is why we've got the volume of space here. The second and third floor of the apartment building are quite unique in that they have this volume, and the architects Nondas Katsalidis have been able to create additional spaces. So although there's a smaller footprint, you've got a much larger space.
Take us back through the history of this building a little bit, because there's quite a lot of apartments in here now, as we'll get a sense of as we're chatting.
147.
That's incredible.
And most of them are unique, so that's a pretty big challenge.
And that's quite unusual, isn't it, for city living to have these sort of modular, quite unique apartments within a building?
It is. The general principles to developing apartment blocks are to repeat them.
Yeah. Floor
by floor, easier to build. With this one, that opportunity wasn't there because it's refurbishment of a building. So firstly, I think it addresses core sustainability principles in that if a building's well designed and constructed, it's open to other adaptive reuses. So it's less about bells and whistles sustainability and more about sort of a ground roots holistic approach. So it started its life in the early 1940s on the design table of the Public Works Office. And again, I mention that when you invest in good buildings, you get a good outcome. So designed in the 1940s, however, there was the outbreak of the Second World War and it was put on hold. And then because of a shortage of construction materials, it wasn't actually completed until 1954. So it's quite deceiving looking at the building, knowing when it was completed, and then thinking, oh, hang on, that was designed in the 1940s. So if we go back a step to the period of time that this building was designed, it came out of the Postcode 3000 scheme, which Rob Adams initiated with the City of Melbourne. We had a lot of buildings that were disused. The city was a donut, everyone left it at night and on the weekends. So they thought about how can we get people back into the city, and I guess Melbourne's quite unusual. We've got the spread. So this was about bringing people back in. So the early 1990s saw all of those disused buildings converted into apartments, and this was one of them. But Nondas Katsalidis, it was Nation Nondas Katsalidis at that time, they did Melbourne Terrace. That was one of the first purpose-built apartments. They followed that with Republic Tower, and then there was Hero. So we've got the original fabric which goes up to the 9th floor, and then they added 6 stories on the top. And when you look at the outside of the building, there is such a clear distinction between the old and the new. And in creating the apartments, they looked at how they could create balconies when there were none. I think with apartments, it's very important to have that outside space. I mean, we're sitting in the living room, we've got fantastic views outside. People like to garden, people like to sit outside. So they pulled apart the original building fabric and pulled the window line in. And fantastic spaces arose out of that.
So you've talked about the space of these apartments, and we're getting a little bit of a feel for the history of this building, but it's quite amazing sitting in here right now and getting this sense of space and height and a view out to the city. I really feel like I'm part of the city sitting in here.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
The noise when you first move into the city does take a little bit of getting used to, but it just becomes like background and you don't notice it. The volume of space is very important. I've been in apartments with 2.4 metre ceilings, which is the bare minimum, and you feel very, very compressed. The change in height here makes it feel much bigger than it is. And most of the apartments are minimum 3 metre high ceilings. These are nearly 5 metre high ceilings, so that's how you can get the other level in. So you get to look up, but also when you're in that space above, you get to look down and that view is extended across as well.
I get the feeling that once people have moved into this building that they probably don't want to move on, do they? Like, once you find
no,
it.
they don't. They don't. Sue's a case in point. Just mentioned her name. She moved from the 3rd floor, and her neighbour has bought another apartment, and she's moving to the 12th floor. And that's interesting because hers is a 2-bedroom apartment, and she's moving to a 1-bedroom apartment. It has great orientation. It has a balcony that spans the living area. It's smaller, square metre wise, but again, because you've got that outlook, it doesn't feel smaller, but it goes to the idea of enough. We're building bigger houses, we being the construction industry, 3, 4 bedrooms. I mean, you've got narrow areas of space on each side of a block. This is about enough. So how much space is enough? And if the space is well designed to begin with, you've got enough storage, place to put, you know, mops and buckets, terribly boring things. But if you don't have the space for it, it just doesn't work. So the smaller footprint, if you like, actually suits the lady coming from the 2-bedroom one because she wants to live a lot more simply.
You've got quite a personal connection to this building in many ways, don't you? In terms of how much of it you've seen, the insights into the different apartments and the processes that it's gone through. Tell us a bit about your connection with the Hero apartments.
Well, it started with me buying an apartment. I knew of the building to begin with, and that was certainly a draw card. There was always a lot of the term owner-occupiers, and that made a big difference. There's a real care in how the building works. There's a very strong committee that are constantly wanting to improve the building. So I renovated the apartment that I had, and really within about 7 months, I guess, sold it. I wasn't planning to, but you know, the case of the offer too good to refuse. And there was someone else who wanted to buy it and missed out, and then bought another one for me to renovate. So that kind of started the whole process. But working with homes, you know, you're very intimate with people's lifestyles, and the clients become friends. And I guess because I always had my coffee here and continue to have my coffee here, there's a cafe down below, the outdoor lounge room, if you like, you meet every